Hi, it's a pleasure to be with you at this virtual AM Live. It's strange not being at the NEC with our clients, our colleagues and of course our legendary suite car. But don't despair. Visit our virtual booth, Hall 1, Position 4, and you can ask for some magic stars and candy kittens to be delivered direct to your door. 2021 is also Judge Services' 10th anniversary, so watch this space for more activity in the spring. This year I've got a whole new bunch of insight to share with you about what customers are looking for now and into the future. But first, a little bit about 2020. As a business, as we entered the pandemic and the first lockdown, we set out and still have three clear core principles. 1. Protect the team, both health and jobs. 2. Do our bit for both the local community and the business community we serve, in our case the motor trade. And 3. Be prepared to spring up the traps when we came out of the lockdown. I'm pleased to say that despite giving significant discounts during the first lockdown, we've not had to make any redundancies, and neither has anyone contracted COVID-19 from our workplace. We also did launch a volunteering software for people to use to help each other out. We call that Help Next Door. And we conducted surveys on behalf of our clients of their existing customer bases to understand their attitudes and behaviours and what they're likely to be as they came out of the first lockdown. We also conducted some industry surveys for Automotive Management and will continue to do so. This year we've learned an awful lot about our clients and our team, and their positivity, adaptability and resilience have been amazing. So, as well as insight, to help your business at the end of this session, I'm going to share my 3 golden rules for 2021. For today's presentation, I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Busby, Commercial Director at Hendy Group, who's going to talk through how Hendy use our services.
So here at Hendy Group, we use a number of insight tools provided by Judge Services. The first one is the Proact program, and this principally is aimed at those inquiries where our sales teams have created a lost sale, and we really want to understand the insight that will help us inform how we can better improve the experience in the showroom and therefore continue to enhance our conversion rates. A very valuable tool.
Sure, our lost sales tool is called Proact and has become even more popular since the first lockdown ended. I guess dealers have found themselves with a bit less time to follow customers up. We've also found that online-only customers have a lower customer satisfaction as judged by the promoter score than people who physically visit the premises. And in fact, we've seen the score for physical visits increase in terms of customer satisfaction post-lockdown. Remember, the promoter score only takes account of the promoters and detractors, taking the detractors away from the promoters and giving you the score, ignoring the passives. But even though customers are less satisfied with online, they've been pushed down that path by circumstance. And interestingly, as you can see here, online inquiries peaked at 42% in June. Historically, they've been around 18%. From that 42%, they fell back down to the mid-20s in July, August, September, October, as we enjoyed the mini boom. And then they headed back up in 30 to 34% in November, but are headed back down again in December. My guess is it'll stay around 25% in the future, growing a little over time. But don't underestimate the importance of phone calls. Higher than online inquiries in November. It's telephone skills that pay the bills. Based on the October results, we're seeing, in terms of lost sales, that 42% are still in the market to buy a vehicle. We also know that from this, 15% will go on to buy a car or a van from that retailer. And if they're bought elsewhere, we can tell you who the real competition are. Of those still in the market, over 40% are waiting on contact from the retailer. This could be about finance, stock availability, the part exchange, but literally 4 in 10 are a phone call or email away from a potential deal. And we can tell you who they are and remind you of their contact details. When we look at the voice of the customer, the major causes of discontent or gripes are the negotiation, car and test drive, or the retailer staff. Looking at these bugbears one by one, with retailer staff, it was not following up on contact request. This follows up the earlier stat we had about the number of people who are still waiting to be contacted. At previous conferences, we've talked about the importance of management introduction. And as we return to our showrooms, again, we shouldn't forget this lesson. Being introduced to a manager increases the chance of a sale from 11% to 27%. When it comes to concerns over test drives, it was the lack of availability of the right car that 75% of the time that got people's goat, particularly when they're often booked up in advance. Again, previously we've looked at the effect of test drives. Offering a test drive literally doubles the chance of selling a car from 11 to 22% in our sales. If the frustration was with the deal, it's normally over the part exchange, with 70% of people saying they get offered a better amount from another retailer. Interestingly, at the moment, people are more satisfied than normal with their part exchange valuations. Perhaps this shouldn't be a surprise, as we've had strong used car values recently, as good retail stock is harder to get hold of. This kind of insight is really useful. And coming out of lockdown in the first case, to help our clients understand public attitudes to both vehicle purchase and servicing, helping them to plan ahead, we conducted additional surveys of their existing customers. Prior to that, we'd created software to enable people to volunteer or ask for help during the lockdown in their local communities, again, doing our bit.
A number of other ad hoc surveys have been fulfilled on our behalf. The first one was a state of the nation type survey following the re-emergence from lockdown version 1. We were keen to understand how our customers felt about visiting our showrooms again and visiting our service centres. We just wanted to be absolutely certain the social distancing measures that we put in place provided customers with security and comfort and knowledge it was a safe place to visit. That survey was incredibly helpful and insightful. The next example would be our exploration of customers' attitudes towards carbon offset. And this was really to understand the sentiment around our customers and how they feel about contributing to offsetting their carbon use through their vehicle. Again, provided valuable insight to help us inform and shape products for the future.
It's been really worthwhile working with Hendy on the carbon offset survey. It was interesting to see that whilst 85% of people accept that we're responsible for global warming, only half would see offsetting emissions as an incentive to purchase. That might be explained by a lack of understanding of how carbon offsetting works, or some scepticism about its effectiveness. Or perhaps it's because the majority think it'll cost a fortune, over 50 quid, when actually for around a tenner you can offset your average vehicle for a year. Whilst these are great examples of our market research capability, we also continually adapt our normal surveys. For example, we now ask about satisfaction with COVID-19 measures in our React post-transaction survey, which clients can share to reassure their customers.
The React program we use to analyse the experience our customers receive when they do buy from us. And I think this is a very powerful tool, particularly on used cars, where it is often the forgotten part of the business when it comes to measuring the customer experience. And we use this to help inform the likelihood of retaining that customer through the workshop and repeat business through finance renewals. And the last insight tool that we use on a regular basis is the traffic light report. The traffic light report enables us to benchmark across all of our locations by brand the sentiment about the customer experience. And this forms a very important part of our brand manager's brief when working with their teams.
So, making the insight useful and usable is critical in us helping our clients improve. Our traffic light report enables you to see where challenges exist, either by retailer or down to individual sales executive, so you can act on them, identifying training or coaching needs. For example, we know that contact since delivery reduces the number of detractors by a third, a chance to nip concerns in the bud and build relationships. Responding to the content of a customer review will also improve customer satisfaction. And of course, you can do this very publicly.
Reviews are an incredibly important part of the program. More and more consumers are starting online and are looking for the comfort and security of recommendations from people that have interacted with our business before. Deep down, we are all herd animals and we tend to follow others because we feel safe in that way. And for me, that's an important part of why the reviews are so important, and they form a really big part of the DNA of our business.
I agree, and that probably helps explain why post-lockdown actual sales, as opposed to inquiries, have more or less returned to pre-pandemic patterns in terms of distance travelled, although there is evidence that the shift to digital will be enduring. So why will the change to digital be more enduring? Well, the dealer website and Google presence has never been more important. Found on Google has increased by a whopping 20% and the dealer website by nearly 10%. And whilst it's still small overall, social media is up nearly 13%. This means we need to act digital, but think local to get an unfair share of the market. More of which when we get to the golden rules.
All of the programs help us to understand the feedback from our customers and their attitudes towards the experience we're providing. And also it helps us inform how we need to reshape things, both from a sales process point of view, and there I'm talking online and offline. The reports that we receive are timely, they are absolutely relevant, and the account reviews we have with our account director are also highly valuable sessions that always produce an output in terms of actionable things that we can do to improve our business and the experience for our customers.
One last piece of insight. The performance of digital media channels, which we track every month. Here you can see that Auto Trader remains the biggest attributed source by far. But we can also see noteworthy growth in the leads attributed to motors.co.uk, used cars, NI, Facebook and Heycar, with a decline in the other peripheral classifieds. Now, time for the 3 golden rules. So number 1 lesson for the year, be prepared. Think team, make sure your communication is clear and consistent. Explain your thinking, your plan, and then act accordingly. Don't overpromise or get carried away with over-optimistic assessment of any given situation. Also think customer. Be prepared to do the research as required to keep up with their sentiments and future intentions, as well as measuring customer satisfaction. Also keep an eye on the media, what's really working for you right now. Golden rule number 2, the distance rule. Act digital, but think local. Make sure your digital footprint is right for your stock profile. Make sure your visibility in your local market exceeds your competitors. Is your digital forecourt user-focused and up-to-date? Have you done your admin, not just on your site, but on Google My Business too? Are your hours up to date for sales and service? Are the telephone numbers or tracking numbers all up to date and connected, particularly if you're using tracking numbers? That old chestnut, are your vehicle pictures pocket and up to date? And are you promoting current offers, or have you left some old ones up there by mistake? Have you got reviews and star rankings on your website and Auto Trader to ensure people know that you're a business to be trusted? To be clear, I'd include social media in here as well, because that is becoming an increasingly large part of that local marketing activity. Finally, is your point of sale up to date? And is what you've got on your showroom and forecourt the same as what you've got on your digital point of sale materials, your banners and your advertising? Golden rule number 3, always deliver first class service. Last year, we talked about the causal link between improved customer service, as measured by promoter score, and stock turn. Put simply, the higher the customer satisfaction, the faster used cars move. We know what to do. Management introductions, test drives, follow-up inquiries, and follow-up customers after delivery to nip any concerns in the bud and build your relationship. Enlist a customer service program to measure how your team are performing on an ongoing basis and act on what it tells you. Be fanatical about making the world a better place, one customer at a time. After all, whether it's me or my team selling to a car dealer group, or that car dealer group selling a car to an individual, it's all about relationships.
Our relationship with Judge Services is not a simple supplier-customer relationship. It's a partnership, and it's a partnership that's built on trust, because we know that Judge Service truly do add value to our business. And if I were leaving a review, it really would be a 5-star rating.
Hi, I'm Helen. I'm General Manager at Johnson's Mazda in Gloucester, and here for the questions and answers with Neil Adley from Judge Service. Hi, Neil.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yes, it's a slightly strange experience, isn't it? But certainly one
I guess we have to adapt to at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a question from Rebecca M. What do you expect for the automotive industry in 2021?
Good question. I guess I expect to see the sort of same levels of resilience that we saw towards the end of last year, so November, and I guess that we're seeing now, with click and collect and home delivery making the bulk of the sales that have been done for a few months, I guess. Obviously, service departments are still able to operate, but I think I read the other day that we've adapted 7 years worth of technology within 7 months as a result of the pandemic, and so I expect to see a pretty reasonable level of sales, and certainly from what we see in terms of our lost sales program, Proact, we're seeing as many, if not more, sales inquiries coming through at the moment as we would do in a normal January. So it certainly seems like things are okay. As to when the vaccine overcomes the curve of the pandemic, I think it's way too early to call on that. Probably, hopefully mid-year, but we probably hoped it would be January, didn't we? So we'll have to see.
Absolutely. I mean, talk about click and collect and delivery services. How are you finding? Are people reacting well to it when they're giving reviews?
Yes, yeah. So we specifically ask a question in our surveys about the COVID sort of preparations, so social distancing and that within dealerships and within the click and collect process, and people have given really high scores. People seem to be adapting pretty well. And just from anecdotal feedback as well, there seems to be a bit less haggling going on. Yeah. So people they're doing their research perhaps, and then they're getting to a point that they know what they want for the part exchange, the car and the finance. And there seems to be a much higher level of satisfaction with the amount that's being offered for part exchanges at the moment as well. So I think consumers have adapted pretty well to this.
Do you think that the no haggle stuff, do you think a lot of that is from advertising companies like Cinch and Kazoo, where it is that they do advertise that no haggle?
Yeah, I guess if you like, Auto Trader and to a less scale, Motors.co.uk or Hey Car are perfect marketplaces, so you can really see exactly the right pricing on vehicles, and so. Once you've decided that that's what you can afford, then I guess the only other variable is your part exchange, and then whether you can afford the monthly payment. So I think that consumers are probably expecting to pay what they're being asked to more now because of some of this advertising. But of course, the truth is the retail motor industry has been doing this for years, and delivering to home for years for half the business anyway, because half the business is fleet. So. So it doesn't surprise me that we've been able to adapt quite quickly to these circumstances. But in general, I think it's probably just speeded up an acceleration that was going to come anyway.
As you said earlier, like you say, 7 years acceleration within 7 months is incredible, isn't it? Another question come in. How accurate can you be in equating leads and sales to customer reviews?
So that's a good question. Auto Trader did some research probably 18 months ago, whereby they looked at how quickly stock turned compared to how many reviews people had. And someone who only has 6 reviews, it took them 81 days to turn a car, whereas someone who had 76 reviews took 54 days on average across the whole Auto Trader base. And someone who had 250 reviews was selling cars at around 45 days. Now, admittedly, that probably slightly reflects the scale of the businesses that they're talking to, but there's a definite correlation between reviews and stock turn. And according to our own research, and this was pre-pandemic, so it might have changed a bit since, we can see a correlation between the promoter score and the amount of times it takes to sell a car. So if you can get your promoter score up by 20%, which most of our clients do within 2 years of starting working with us, then you will move cars about 6 days quicker. So you'll move them at 34 days as opposed to 40 days on average. So there is a definite link between reviews and stock turn, and stock turn equals profit, doesn't it? So there's a definite link, and I would guess that it's probably become even more exaggerated now because people are having to do more research online, so they can't go and see whether you're nice at the moment. They can only judge based on what other people have said.
Yeah. Okay. Another question: how important has it been to understand customer views in relation to the pandemic, and how have you adapted practices in your business as a result?
So I suppose this is kind of what we've done and what our clients have done. So in terms of our business, we like many suppliers offered significant discounts to our clients and during the lockdown periods to reflect the difficulties that their businesses were having. And we've had most of our team working from home since March, and we're quite lucky. We geared up to do that prior to the pandemic. I have a mentor who works for Accenture, the I suppose outsourcing business, and they've got offices in Italy and that. So we had a bit of forewarning as what was going to happen, and so we had everyone working from home about 2 weeks before Boris told us that we should, just because we could see it coming. And we've kind of stuck to that. We've had a few people in the office during the sort of boom times now that you look back on in June to September. And that was quite nice to actually see some different people. But right now we're down to just one or two of us being in the office, just to make sure there's someone on site from an insurance perspective. Other than that, we're all working from home, or in the case of people who are homeschooling, for example, then we've used furlough to make it easy for them to be able to do that. In terms of our clients, they've been incredibly adaptive, as we've discussed previously. So most of them have got click and collect and home delivery going on. It's almost covering most of the sales they'd normally have done. And as I say, we've asked COVID compliant questions since the beginning of June, and the response from the public has been that the car dealerships have been really, really responsible in the way they've gone about business. Truth is, I can only ever remember once having a showroom that was too full. So even when we come back to opening showrooms and that as well, it's not like they're not like supermarkets or co-op or whatever. They're, you are relatively easily able to distance, I think.
Having watched your session, I think the fact that since pandemic you've not had any redundancies and you've kept all your staff, your colleagues' jobs. I think that's fantastic, and what you're doing with, like you said, the people at homeschooling as well, I have to say is fantastic. Just shows you're really looking after your colleagues. It's
all about people, right?
Absolutely. Right, another question come in. We regularly see customer insights from classified sites, social sites, but should major dealer groups not already be serving their own customers' regions to get focused insight?
So I think that most groups have got some sort of program underway to look at customer satisfaction and insight. What I see as different for if you're using someone like us is that we can give you the insight, plus we can give you the comparisons with other groups, whether that's franchise by franchise or regionally. And also it's our core business. So we wake up every morning worrying about insight and reviews and lost sales, and we go to bed worrying about it too. So we're always looking to innovate and introduce new formats for questions, new questions if they're needed, such as the COVID stuff, I guess. And because we're also a market research business, we've also been able to do surveys of consumers' attitude to COVID for our clients, so that we knew what to prepare for as we came out the first lockdown. And we've also done some surveys with Automotive Management, actually, on what the dealers are thinking of what's going on. So we've been able to give some insight and, to an extent, some leadership in that area as well.
Okay, we've got another question. What's the best way to encourage customers to write a review? And are there signs of review fatigue among customers? Have they become more sceptical that the reviews they actually read are genuine, for example?
So I think that's quite a lot of questions, actually. So firstly, the best way to get people to do it is to use someone to do it for you. we know from the research that we've done that if you just ask people, then you will get a trickle of Google reviews and what have you. But actually, if you build it into a process so that customers are being automatically asked for a review, you will get a much more balanced view of what your customers think. The risk, if you don't, is that you only get the really disgruntled customers who could be bothered to go on and leave reviews. So I would say sign up to a review program. There are others available; they're just not quite as good as us. So that's the first thing. And we see response rate as around 40%. So we get a pretty good handle on that. And we can also then share those reviews with Auto Trader, with motors.co.uk, and push that content out wider onto Google and Facebook and that as well. In terms of survey fatigue, I think we've seen the opposite. We've actually seen an increase in responses. I suppose people have got a bit more time on their hands, and so we've actually seen an increase in response over the last 6 to 12 months rather than a decline. And I suppose when it comes to people's skepticism about reviews, I think that again comes down to volume. Is if you've only got one or two and they're all either really glowing or really negative, then I think people take that with a pinch of salt. If you've built up a bank of tens, even hundreds or thousands of reviews, then people can really see the kind of business you are. And yes, they'd expect to see some good ones and some bad ones in there, but for the most case, most people have bought a car from people they like. You don't tend to spend 15 to 20 grand with someone who you don't trust.
Of course. So you find so since pandemic, you said there's been an increase in returns. Yes.
So we've seen it's not been like huge, but I think coming into this year, our response rate was averaging around into 2020. Our response rate was around 37%, and it's risen to just over 40% right now. So I think that probably data quality's got better because people are capturing email addresses and mobile numbers because a lot of the transactions are being done over the phone and via email. But also, I do think people have probably got that little bit more time on their hands to be able to complete the surveys. Yes. And so we've not seen any reversal in that. When it comes to lost sales, we've seen an increase in the amount of lost sales inquiries we're getting as well. So I think people are just more receptive, perhaps, to communication because of the situation we're in.
Do you feel people are getting too many surveys? You know, if you've signed up to say judge service and manufacturer surveys.
So, I mean, we're very careful to make sure that we fit in with whatever is going on with an OEM survey. So if there is one that would conflict with us, either we do very short surveys so that they get in front ahead of the manufacturer curve, or if they're going to be clashing, then we just recommend to client that we wouldn't do that. But we do surveys on used cars, new cars, after sales, accident repair, vehicle hire. So there's always opportunities to improve the insight that we get into the businesses and share that with our clients.
Do you tend to use standard survey, or can clients tailor them to how they, the questions that they want? Or
really good question. So we tend to recommend that clients use a standard survey. We can bespoke questions, and sometimes you'll get things like so cosmetic repair insurance became a thing a couple of years ago, and so one or two clients asked for that to be, were you offered CRI to be one of the questions, and so we'd add that in to our standard questionnaire and make it available to any clients that want it. But of course, not everybody offers cosmetic repair insurance, so we tailor that. The same with service plans and things like that. But we recommend, in general, that you use the standard survey because then you can do the benchmark against your peers.
Yeah, I suppose if you've got other questions in there, it's very hard to, like you say, do a benchmark and measure the KPIs.
Sure, exactly right. And that's part of the beauty of using a service where, we've got well over 1,000 dealers on. So whatever brand you're representing, we're able to give you comparisons with your peers.
Yeah, well, I think our time is pretty much up, Neil. What stand are you on at the event?
So we're in Hall 1. Good question. Yeah. We're in Hall 1, position 4. And of course, many of you will know that we have our virtual suite cart. So normally we've got our suite cart on our stand, which we've become a little bit renowned for. This year, unfortunately, we can't meet you face to face, but we can still send you suites. So if you do want your candy kittens or your Milky Way stars, then go onto our stand, click on the link, and you can order yourself those, and we'll deliver them to your home. I think the postage costs more than the sweets, but there you go. That's life in 2021.
I've already signed up for my sweets. Thank you. I look forward to receiving them.
Very good.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you.